Hey everyone, it's Dr. Katie Woodley here, the natural pet doctor. Do you have a pet that is maybe a bit picky? Maybe they don't want to eat their morning meal and you're like, they're just picky. That's completely normal. Or maybe you have a cat or a dog that'll vomit or want to eat grass, or they're having a bit of diarrhea and intermittent. Maybe it's intermittently, right? Like they're completely normal in between, but they just seem kind of sensitive. Or they get a bit itchy, and it might be a seasonal thing, or it could be a year round. And you're just kind of like, is this normal or is there something off? So here's the thing, a lot of times you go into the vet clinic, right? And they do blood work and it all comes back normal. And your vet's like, nope, this is normal. They're healthy. And you're like, huh, I wonder why they're doing this though. Because here's the thing, those symptoms are your check engine light for something wrong inside their body. But here's the problem, a lot of conventional medicine testing is not going to show you what is going on under the hood. And what happens then is that you keep thinking like, this is completely normal for my pet. And you keep doing the same thing, you keep feeding the same food, you keep getting down the road, maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe years down the road. All of a sudden, you're like, why was my pet diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease? Why are they getting worse? Why are they getting more sensitive to other foods? This is why we are talking about this today, because you may be missing the reason why some of these symptoms are appearing, and your pet may not be healthy. And you are not crazy. There is a reason. And the good thing is that there is a way now to test for this. And there is also a way forward to help heal them. So you don't have to keep going back and forth to the vet clinic, feeling like you're a crazy person, spending all this money, stressing over your pets, watching them, eat all the grass, vomit, have diarrhea, be sensitive. Maybe they're itchy. There's a way forward. So that is what we are talking about today. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I'm Dr. Katie Woodley, the natural pet doctor. I'm an integrative holistic veterinarian who's on a mission to make sure you, as the amazing pet parent you are, can find the root cause of why your pet is off so you can heal it and be proactive and help them live their best and longest life. So if you're all about that, if you're super excited, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments down below, because I love hearing from you guys. And I want to make sure, if you're having issues and that's why you're here, drop a comment. So let me know, help. I need help with this. My vet's not finding this and I don't know what to do. And I'm being told this is normal, but I feel like it's not. So this is what we're talking about today in this week's Coffee Talk with the Doc. We're going to be talking about, is leaky gut why your pets are sick? It is the most common condition, common, not normal, leaky gut's not normal, common condition that is causing this weird symptoms, right? So some of the symptoms you might notice may not even be what we would call gut related, right? Of course, you're not eating, vomiting, diarrhea, lethargy, decreased energy can be a reason for or be a cause of that leaky gut condition. But itchiness can definitely be related to a gut health problem, and leaky gut is the number one cause of a lot of these problems. So we want to look at our pets and know, okay, what is normal for them? Because I hear it all the time. My colleagues, they go, well, this is a normal, it's normal. It's normal for your dog to want to eat all the grass. Yes, it can be to a certain extent. Picky eating is not normal. It's a sign your pet doesn't feel good. And we have to find why. And a lot of times it's because of this leaky gut condition that we're going to discuss today. So, some of the other things that don't seem related could be well, of course, gassiness. Pets should not be gassy. So if you're laughing and you're like, my pet clears the room, not normal. We need to adjust that mindset and shift the way that we're thinking. And two, if you felt who here's ever felt crazy, you're going back and forth to the vet for the same thing and they're running all these tests and they're not finding the answer, but then they're just telling you, well, you just have to deal with it. It's normal. Has anyone been in that situation? Because I work with a lot of clients that have that problem. and you're not crazy. There is a reason for these symptoms. It's not normal. Acid reflux, I'm glad someone brought that up. That is definitely a problem. Gut health is very, very important, and it's not talked about enough. And finally, we're getting a lot more research on the pet side. We're getting some really cool testing that you can do as a pet parent, that you can order yourself to actually identify if your pet has leaky gut. So, and we're going to talk about some of the causes too, because leaky gut is still like a symptom. It doesn't just happen. There is a cause for why it happens. And if we miss the causes for why leaky gut is occurring, we're going to stay on that vicious treadmill, right? Like we're going back and forth, we're doing all the same things, but we're expecting a different result. And that's what like the definition of crazy is, right? So I don't want you to be crazy anymore. So I'm here to help you and let you know that you are right. There is something going on, and we need to tweak and adjust our approach to this, so that way we can help heal our pets for the long term, but also too, so you can look at your pets differently and better understand where are things off. So let's talk about some of the causes of leaky gut. And then I'm going to go into more of what leaky gut means, because a lot of these causes are things you wouldn't think would cause an issue, and they can lead to other stuff. First off, if you think there's a problem, go to your veterinarian and have them do the basic blood work, your CBC, your biochemistry, a urinalysis, a thyroid. Make sure you're getting those baseline values. Really, really important. Here's the thing. A lot of times it's going to come back normal, and it doesn't mean what you're seeing as a normal thing. So we have to look deeper, and we have to tap into functional medicine testing. Really, really important. So all the people that are saying they're itchy, they're chewing their paws, we have to look to the gut. We have to heal the gut and make sure we're not missing a gut health problem. So some of the common causes of this condition are going to be things like stress. Who here has ever felt stressed in, like, let's just say the last 3 years? Like, yeah, there's been a lot of stress, and stress can directly lead to leaky gut because of the gut brain axis. We're not going to talk a lot about the gut brain axis. I've talked a lot about that in previous videos. We have a lot of free resources on emotional health. So if you need help with that, please send us a message, and we're more than happy to share some of those resources with you. So that way we can make sure we're addressing the stress. Now, when I say stress, I'm talking about us, like the humans, because our pets will mirror us. They will. This is where a lot of times, I talk to so many people every day in my communities, online, through emails. And it's like, wow, why does my pet have the same health condition that I have? Because they're picking up on the energy. And so we need to become more aware of, like, how am I feeling today? Yep, it's not a fun experiment, right, for a lot of people. But how am I feeling? Am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Okay, where can I like help support myself better? Maybe I don't try to do all the things today, and it's okay if I take a breather, meditate, journal, all those things. Very, very important. We need to manage stress. Emotional health is a huge pillar. And when it's off, it can lead to health problems down the road because of this leaky gut condition. So we need to be thinking about that. We also need to look at the drugs that our pets are on. I am not against conventional drugs. There's a time and a place for conventional drugs, especially for managing quality of life. So if your pet's in a lot of pain, sometimes a non-steroidal is necessary to bring down the pain, while hopefully you're integrating in a holistic path and you're using supplements and herbs and acupuncture, laser therapy. There's so many great holistic modalities that can be used together, and then you lower the amount of drugs, right? But if you have pets that have like acid reflux, they're vomiting, a lot of times the first recommendation is an antacid, when in reality, a lot of times the problem is not the too much acid. The problem is there's not enough stomach acid. The pH is not low enough. They're not digesting the food. We have a motility issue. We might have an overgrowth of bacteria in the gut that's leading to this dysbiosis that's now causing the acid reflux. So when we start giving these antacids, yes, we might see an improvement, but over the long term, I'm seeing them misused on the human side, especially, but also on the pet side. If we're using those, they are short-term usage. What that means is they should not be on it for the rest of their life, getting it every single day. There are human studies that showcase that vitamins and minerals will be affected, the absorption. So what does that mean? Okay, now we're affecting the absorption of magnesium, for example. Magnesium is an important cofactor for over 3,500 enzymatic reactions in the body. If we are blocking the absorption or minimizing that absorption from the food, we're going to create other health issues down the road if we continue to use those drugs. So we need to look at drugs as like, yes, they are like a Band-Aid. They are not meant for long-term uses, usually, because there are other better modalities that we can use long-term that are going to have less side effects. But we know that these antacids and other drugs like non-steroidals, your anti-anxiety medications, flea and tick products, are going to impact the gut, and it can lead to this thing called leaky gut. So keep that in mind. Vaccinations. A lot of pets are over vaccinated. So we need to make sure we're using appropriate vaccinations. We have an entire ebook, our holistic pet guide. You can get that at thenaturalpetdoctor.com. If you want to look at like, okay, what are the different life stages? How do I approach vaccines? How do I make sure my pet's not over vaccinated? That guide will help you with that. So definitely check it out for your dogs and your cats. The other thing too is that a lot of people forget about the invisible things. So this is where like toxins are a huge issue. So toxins, we don't always see them, right? And especially right now in the US, it is summertime and people are spraying the heck out of their yards. Like my wonderful neighbors, God bless them, like they're beautiful people. But the problem is that they're spraying Roundup, they're spraying all sorts of things on their yards. So glyphosate is a huge issue. And we know that over 90% of the world's water is contaminated with glyphosate. So no matter where you are, no matter how clean your internal environment is, your pets will be coming into contact with toxins. And especially glyphosate, I use that as an example because so many pet foods are contaminated with glyphosate because they're using GMO foods. So they're using things like corn, they're using legumes, they're using wheat, and those oats are common factors in those foods. And they're sprayed a lot of times, even if it's a non GMO, if it's not organic, it's sprayed at the end of the season. So that concentration is going to be very high. And HRI labs, what's nice is they've done a lot of research to show that dogs actually have like over 30 times higher amounts of glyphosate in their urine than people. This is a huge issue. And glyphosate directly impacts the microbes in the gut through the shikimate pathway, and it's going to lead to dysbiosis, inflammation, leaky gut. So we need to be looking at that. Diet is a huge factor too. So if we're feeding foods that are rich in these like the owl foods, the oats, the wheat, the legumes, if it's rich in glyphosate and toxins, it's high in carbohydrates, it's not a species appropriate diet, it has artificial ingredients. We did a talk a couple weeks ago on the toxic pet food ingredients. So you can go back on our YouTube channel, Dr. Katie Woodley, the Natural Pet Doctor, and rewatch that under our live replay. I highly recommend it because people don't understand the definitions of pet food, and pet food has a different definition than human food, right? Kind of weird, but it's a different industry and there's a lot to it. So you want to become aware of those things that could be impacting the gut, that are leading to things like acid reflux, where they're regurgitating or they're like doing the praise stance. They're feeling uncomfortable. There's a lot of pain. They're eating tons of grass. They don't want to eat. They're picky. They're vomiting, diarrhea. They just seem really sensitive. They might have allergies. These are all common conditions of leaky gut. So what is leaky gut? Leaky gut is a problem because what happens is when we think about the gut, it's not just about digestion, right? It's about the microbes. It's about that ecosystem in our pet's digestive tract. So they're going to have different ecosystems and different organs. There's different your ecosystems in the bladder, your ecosystem, like your microbiomes are all going to be different, and like the kidneys, the bladder, the stomach, the skin has an ecosystem too, and it's made up of different microorganisms. So in the gut specifically, there's going to be trillions of different types of bacteria, protozoa, fungi that hopefully are working well together, are in a nice balance together. And what can happen when we start seeing some of these causes of leaky gut happen, or like the stress increases, maybe that glyphosate or other toxins increase and that your pet's exposed to, what will happen is that it can create a dysbiosis. What that means is we have bad bacteria or organisms outnumbering the good. And then what happens then is that we can't digest the food as well. So a lot of times you'll see like fermentation. What does that look like in your pets? That could be gassiness. So if they're like farting or burping a lot, that's not normal. That could be due to this dysbiosis that's present because they're not digesting their food well. If they're not digesting their food well, they can't take in the vitamins and the minerals. They can't make neurotransmitters. 90% of serotonin, which is that calming neurotransmitter, is made in the gut. It'll also affect hormone production. A lot of thyroid hormones are being made in the gut. And then what happens is we get a lot of inflammation. We get a lot of toxins that are being produced. And then that gut lining is very sensitive. So we have the inside of the gut, we call that the lumen. This is where like the food, the stool, the toxins, bacteria are all at. And then we have a mucus layer. This is where a lot of the immunoglobulins are located. These are the cells that are going to like bind to toxins. They're going to bind to food. They're going to bind to parasites. They're going to bind to the things that we need to get out of the body that shouldn't pass over into and stimulate the actual immune system, get into the bloodstream. So we need that. And a lot of these pets are deficient in these immunoglobulins, or that mucus layer is too thin. And so we start getting those toxins and those inflammatory mediators pushing closer to the gut lining. Now, this gut lining is really thin. It's one cell layer thick. And so we need to make sure it's nice and strong. So what we have are these things called tight junctions. So it's kind of like the cement that glues the gut health cells together. It should be nice and tight. Nutrients and other things can absorb through, but we don't want toxins and food and other foreign particles passing over and overstimulating the immune system. Because here's the other piece. 70% of the immune system is actually in that gut lining. And so it'll be like, okay, we're kind of watching what's happening. And then all of a sudden they see a foreign thing and they're like, maybe it's a food particle. And they're like, that's not normal. And what happens is it stimulates a response from the immune system. And they go into like overdrive and they're like, we gotta ramp things up. Like we got to clear this. We got to get rid of it. This is why pets who have like itchy skin or ear infections or even like anal glands, this is why it can be related to a gut health problem, because now we've ramped up the immune system, that bloodstream, that's the circulatory system's right there. And we get all this like mast cells being produced. Mast cells release histamine. Histamine is like if you have seasonal allergies and your eyes get all red and itchy or you get stung by a bee, that's a histamine response, that redness, that itchiness. So of course we see that manifest on the skin. So if we're only treating the skin or we're suppressing the immune system, but we're not going back to the cause of why that actually occurred and healing that potentially like leaky gut that allowed these things to seep through and overstimulate the immune response, you're going to be stuck on that treadmill. This is where you're going back and forth to the vet and things aren't working very well. And you're spending a lot of money on a lot of times Apoquel or Cytopoint, steroids, prescription diets, and you're like, see a little bit of a response. But anytime you stop it or you change something, or if the body gets so overwhelmed because we actually haven't treated the root cause, your pets go backwards. It is a very frustrating place to be in. And I imagine probably you may be there if you're watching this. So we need to look at the gut and realize like, wow, there's a lot of these systems that are interconnected that we need to address. So that is what leaky gut is. We get inflammation, those start swelling, those tight junctions aren't tight anymore. Now things are seeping through. We're having an overstimulation of the immune system, and now we have inflammation. And so this is where you see pets that all of a sudden they're like sensitive to different like foods that you fed their entire life, right? Anyone here like been like that? Maybe you're going through that right now with your pet and you're like, they were fine with that food. I fed that food every single day. That's why. We're creating an immunological response. So we have to remove that, right? What are the steps? Well, let's actually take a step back because there's some really cool advances in science on the pet side. We're a bit behind. We're a bit behind from the human side that has had a lot more functional medicine tests. Now, conventional gastroenterologists will still like be like, that doesn't matter, or they don't even know what it is about. Like, this is my story and my journey. So I'm super passionate about it because this is where I got started with autoimmune inflammatory bowel disease on the human side and realizing that gastroenterologists were telling us food doesn't matter, which is a joke. And they weren't talking to us about leaky gut. They just want to suppress the hell out of your immune system with biologics and immunosuppressives. And unfortunately, we've taken that and adapted that to the pet side. So we're doing the same thing with the drugs that we use. Once again, there is a time and a place. And if your pet's a scratchy, hot mess, or they're having all sorts of diarrhea that's uncontrollable due to the severe inflammation, drugs can calm that down a little bit. And then we need to look at, okay, food therapy, Chinese herbal medicine, what are these other modalities that we can use? But here's the thing, if you're wondering, well, does my pet actually have leaky gut? Innovative Pet Lab has stepped into the pet space from the human side. So Genova is a really well-known human functional medicine testing lab. And so they have a lot of these tests on the human side. And so the beautiful ladies at Genova were like, Dr. Betsy Redman, we just did an interview with her yesterday. If you want to check it out, it was on cat constipation and gut health. That's on our YouTube channel. If you're not on YouTube right now, you can check that out. But Dr. Betsy Redman had a dog that was having health issues. And she's like, went to her vet and she's like, can I test for this? And they were like, we don't have those tests. And so they were like, wait a second, we need to change this. And so they actually created a stool test that you can order for your pets directly from your home. And this is not me just plugging it. I use it all the time. I've used it in my cats. It's been really, really helpful at identifying, does my pet or my patients truly have leaky gut? And they have a lot of comprehensive tests. So they're going to look at inflammation by measuring calprotectin. They're going to be looking at zonulin. This is a protein that's produced when we start having those tight junctions separate. So if we have high zonulin levels, oh my goodness, we have leaky gut. We need to do something. If your pet's reacting to gluten, they're going to produce an antibody in response to that. That's anti-gliadin A. So IPL, Innovative Pet Lab, and what I'm going to do is let me share. We have a discount code. If you ever want to use them, I'm just going to share that. That's Natural Pet 25. So you get 25% off. However, with that test, what's nice is that you're going to see, is my pet reacting to the food we're feeding, especially if you're feeding something that has gluten in it? And also, two, is my pet producing, like the gut producing zonulin? Because if those markers are off, we need to make sure we are doing something about it, even if your pet is normal. So if you're here just to like learn and grow and educate yourself, fantastic. This is where you can be proactive for your pet's care. And you can do some of these tests, like maybe once a year, if they're healthy, you're not seeing any of those symptoms that I mentioned, do this test. Because here's the thing, we are all on a spectrum of disease where we're either like healthy and things are working really well internally. We're constantly moving along the spectrum to disease, and death is at the very end, right? That's the like last stage, of course. Like that will happen to all of us at some point, unfortunately. But we're going to be moving along this spectrum. And if, let's say, my neighbor sprays glyphosate on their yard, I'm going to move closer to inflammation, right? My body has to kick in, start produce, not digesting, but processing those toxins, and my inflammation is going to increase. So this is something to consider. Like, just because your pet doesn't have a symptom doesn't mean that they're completely healthy inside. This is where, I've said it myself, like Finn, for example, my German Shepherd who had a brain tumor, completely fine one day, next day he's having seizures, and we've diagnosed a brain tumor, right? He wasn't completely fine. He was on that spectrum of disease, and he's inching closer to where, like, bam, now we have seizures. His body couldn't cope anymore, and that's why we saw the symptoms. That's happening to everyone, you, your pets. So definitely keep that in mind. And these tests can be used as a proactive approach to make sure you are not missing something. Really, really, really important. So keep that in mind. So IPL is a test for the US. I'm sorry, people out of the country. I know they're working on getting that test for more availability to make it easier for people to see. The other test that is available overseas to a lot of people is animal biome. This is going to look to see, do we have dysbiosis? This is the beginning stages, right, of that leaky gut a lot of times, where we have that imbalance of good versus bad bacteria, or we're lacking diversity and things aren't working the way that they're supposed to. So we can use that test as like, okay, a great marker to look at. Okay, we have a problem with the microbiome, but it's not just about putting good bacteria back in. We have to treat the entire ecosystem of that gut, Because if we're starting to put like good bacteria in, whether it's just like the fecal gut restore, or if it's like probiotics, which don't stay in the gut, they're pooped out 3 days later, but they can modulate some things. They can help with inflammation. They can, we can use them to help, reduce anxiety and things like that. They can do a lot of stuff, but we have to be healing that gut lining. We have to make the ecosystem habitable for the bacteria to be happy and healthy. This is what's missed. We start doing all the supplements, right? You might be like, the supplement graveyard is what I refer to. You hear someone say, like, this is a great supplement for a dog with acid reflux, or this is a great supplement for your cat that vomits. Okay, but if we aren't healing and nurturing that ecosystem of the gut and the nervous system, calming down the stress, we're going to have a problem. It's not going to help. And Lisa, I do not have allergies. I'm getting over a chest cold. So I know I sound all congested. We're doing okay though. I'm not coughing. So taking all my herbs and supplements and taking care of myself. We can get over it naturally. So, but in terms of same thing, right? Like supporting my gut health, supporting my immune system, making sure that I'm managing stress and emotional health. Very, very important. And so we have the animal biome test, which is looking at the types of bacteria and the levels of those bacteria, which is different from your innovative pet lab tests that are more of like functional markers. Do we have inflammation? What is the immunoglobulins doing? What is the digestive enzymes doing for the dogs? The cat, it's not part of the cat kits at this time. Do we have zonulin? Do we have that leaky gut? Those tight junctions are being affected. Are we having a response, an immune response to things like gluten? So you have to, like, the tests complement each other, but they're measuring different things. The nice thing with both those tests are they are stool tests, very easy to do, and you can order them and you don't need a vet. I mean, yes, include your vet, help them understand that we have these beautiful functional medicine tests now available so they can start learning about them. And we can increase the knowledge of my colleagues so that they can see we can use these tests and we're not guessing and hoping that what we're doing is going to work, or saying that things are normal just because a CBC and biochemistry is normal, but these pets are displaying these symptoms. And just because we don't have a diagnosis doesn't mean that you're like that whole let's wait and see that crap. Like, you don't have to do it anymore. Don't just wait and see, because it doesn't work. It gets worse. And if you're waiting months and months and you're like, I'll figure it out on my own, things are going to get worse. More layers are going to build up. It's going to be harder to treat, and it's going to take longer to heal your pet. So those are the tests that a lot of people here can do. I apologize, it may not be available in your area if you're coming to us from a different place in the world, but definitely check them out. So Innovative Pet Lab and Animal Biome. And I've got that code for the Innovative Pet Labs. You can just go to innovativepetlab.com, use Natural Pet 25, you get 25% off. And if you want to start, just start with the leaky gut test. It's for dogs and it's for cats. And start there and see what happens. See what is their baseline. Are they having leaky gut? And then that way you can guess, or not guess anymore. So you can stop guessing and know what you're doing. So let's touch on some of the treatment principles of leaky gut. So we have this inflamed gut lining. We have these pets. I'm not going to go into disease specifics, but I'm going to do a higher level approach, because so many pet parents, and maybe yourself and your veterinarian, I'm not sure, are missing those foundations. So we don't want all the supplements. Your pet shouldn't be on 15 different supplements unless you're working with someone and there's a forward path. Now, if you're trying supplement after supplement, I want you to minimize. Start with the removal phase. If we're feeding a food that's creating inflammation and we're seeing anti-gliadin A high on IPL tests, we need to remove it. We need to change the diet. If you have a cat that has a gut health issue or itchy, or they're just not right, we need to switch them to a species appropriate diet. We actually have a free guide on how to improve your pet's food for both dogs and cats with different brands and resources and transition and even some recipes. So make sure you go to our website, thenaturalpetdoctor.com, go to our store. It is free. It's a free PDF download that you can take so you can start better understanding how to shift my pets to a better food that's going to help that gut, help that ecosystem, feed the good bacteria, so we can get out of this leaky gut condition and dysbiosis if that's present. So we need to remove the things, remove the stress, remove the toxins. So think about all the things that we could potentially need to remove or limit. If we're on medications, are those medications truly helping, or are there better alternatives and replacements that we can use? Now, in terms of soothing, we have inflammation. We have an inflamed gut lining. We need to soothe and calm things down. So, we definitely need to use nutraceuticals, herbs, supplements that are going to reduce inflammation in the gut lining. This is going to be things like your slippery elm, your marshmallow root. These are mucilages that are going to help coat and soothe and reduce inflammation. Very common in a lot of these gut health supplements too. So definitely be thinking about that. Aloe vera is another very soothing. Make sure it's from the inner fillet of the plant. Otherwise, it can create a laxative effect. Probably the opposite of what we want, unless you have some constipation issues going on. And licorice root. Licorice root is very soothing. It has steroidal like effects. So it acts like steroids, but it doesn't come with the side effects. And a lot of companies are using the deglycerirized licorice, which makes it safer long term if you're worried or your pet is on, blood pressure medications, or if they have electrolyte issues. That's something to be aware of. But I can tell you, my good friend and colleague Greg Tilford, who formulates animal essential products, he did a talk on the licorice and the fear around it. And he said, honestly, I've never seen an issue. I think it was like his over 40 years of using their licorice root product that's not deglycerized, but take a break for a couple of days a week and then restart it. So we want to use things that are calming, they're soothing, they're going to help calm down those adrenal glands, they're going to calm down the stress. So chamomile tea is a beautiful herbal formula or herbal remedy that I use a lot, and everyone here can access chamomile tea. You can use your human versions. I always recommend, if you can, get organic, brew a cup of tea and let it cool. Of course, remove the tea bag. And then you can add a little bit to your dog and your cat's food, or allow them to self-select it. With cats, you can put down dried organic herbs and you can allow them to self-select it. Really, really helpful. So those would be things I would be looking at to get you started. Keep in mind, remove, number one. Number two, soothe that inflamed gut lining. And then number three, we need to feed and repair those cells, right? So they've probably been lacking in nutrition a bit. They're working a bit harder. We need to like repair those tight junctions. And this is where things like L-glutamine, which is an amino acid that is like the number one food source for enterocytes, or what we call gut cells. It's in a lot of formulas that are out there. Brands like Adored Beast and Animal Essentials uses a lot of these things. So make sure you're using companies that are good, that are trustworthy, that are testing their products, that are using good quality supplements. Fair Pets is another one that uses a lot of organic, and highly trust and recommend them. Looking at things like glycine, collagen, these are also food sources for those gut cells. What's a great food source that includes like all of these? That makes it so much easier for pet parents. Well, bone broth. Bone broth is a great nutrient filled whole food source that you can use to help. Another great one that uses whole foods and glandulars is Standard Process. So enteric support is another great option. If you need guidance or you're like not sure where to get those, just send us a message. Like send us below. And here's the thing. I'm going to switch this up on Facebook and YouTube, but drop leaky gut in the comments. If you're like here, and imagine a lot of you are here because you're frustrated. Like you've been going back and forth to the vet. You're not getting the results that you're looking for. And you're just maybe trying all of the different things, and you have a supplement graveyard, and maybe your vet hasn't even talked to you about leaky gut. And they've been telling you like this is normal, or this is like the new norm. This is just what you're going to have to deal with. There is a path forward. So drop leaky gut in the comments, and I will reach out to you personally and send you some additional resources to help get you started and get you guided. So that way you can get help with that. Really, really, really important. Because you don't have to be alone in this. we treat leaky gut every single day. It has been a huge part of my journey over this past decade on the human side. And you can give bone broth every day. You can use a lot of these supplements. That's really, really important. And yes, we use food therapy too. So definitely, I'm seeing you guys drop that leaky gut. This is being recorded. I will go back through and respond. If you haven't gotten a response from us, send us a DM and just put leaky gut. And I know it will know exactly what you're referring to. So I can share some additional resources and get you started with how to transition your pet's food, what supplements. And even if you need help and guidance in our community setting, I will share that so that way you can see if it's a good fit for what you're needing. But I want to finish today's coffee talk with the reminder that you're not crazy. I promise. There is a path forward. We have some amazing tests now that can help you identify, does my pet have leaky gut? A picky pet, a pet that has a sensitive stomach, a pet that's itching and chewing at their feet and getting these recurring ear infections and anal gland problems, that is not a normal thing. And drugs are a band-aid for the symptoms, and we have to look deeper to find the root cause for why those symptoms are there, so we can truly heal your pets and get you out of that vicious cycle of going back and forth to the vet for the same health issues, spending all this money, the stress, the worry, the hopelessness that a lot of pet parents feel. It is time to take it back. There are options moving forward. And when we start understanding and looking for those deeper reasons, those deeper root causes, then we start shifting our mindset to go, this is a journey. My pet's been doing this for years. This is not an overnight fix. But now I know better, and I can shift that mindset and go, okay, day one is today. We can keep a journal. We can start with some of these basic principles, and there are going to be ups and downs. Keep that in mind. Not every day is a beautiful day. I can tell you that personally. However, for me personally, being on this journey for, the past decade, the thing is what's amazing to see and working with, pets and pet parents that have been stuck, they've been stuck with these problems, is that being able to see the forward progression, being able to see in terms of, we have a couple clients in our community, in our blueprint community. Kai is a Rhodesian Ridgeback, and he came to me a hot mess. He was so anxious. His gut brain axis was all messed up. He's super reactive. He had parvo as a puppy, even though he had, his vaccines. His gut health was a wreck. He had parasites. He had all sorts of antibiotics. And I can tell you today, because his amazing mom talks about him every time we do our weekly Q&As in our blueprint community. She talks about how the journey and having faith and the support structure and taking it one day at a time. Almost 2 years later, after working with Kai and his mom, he is a completely different dog. She meets up with friends that she hasn't seen in months, and they're like, who is this animal? He has, perfect stools. Sometimes he'll get mucus every now and then, but mom knows now. She shifted her mindset, that emotional health side, where she goes, that's okay. He's getting rid of something, and I'm not going to freak out. And she knows what to do because she has the tools to do it. That is key. We also have a lot of kitties. We, on Wednesday, on our last Q&A session, one of our other members shared about Dora, her cat that has IBD. And she's been also working with us for probably about a year and a half, actually almost 2 years also, like Kai. And her vet, on steroids, all sorts of things. And she was still having symptoms. She was still having vomiting, and she was still having loose stool, and she wasn't feeling her best. And on Wednesday, it was awesome. She went to a different veterinarian that was more open to all of the holistic modalities we've been using for Dora. And she's been working on transitioning the diet. And even though she's still on a little bit of kibble, that's the thing. We've done the other things to help heal her gut. And her vet was like, whatever you're doing, please keep doing it because it's working. Her inflammatory bowel disease is in remission. So there are paths forward. That is the thing to keep in mind. It's not always an overnight fix, but that there is definitely a journey that goes with it. And there are frameworks that we follow to help heal your pets, because you don't have to be alone in doing this. So once again, send me a message if this, especially on Instagram, if you don't see a message from me by the end of the day, send through a DM, or you can send it through a DM now. Use Leaky Gut. I see you guys on Facebook and YouTube commenting, so I will get to those comments and reach out to you personally with some additional resources that might help you to get you started, get your pets on the right path, so that we can all not be stressed about our pets and worried and spending all this ridiculous amounts of money going back and forth to the vet. I mean, I love seeing my clients, but I love seeing their pets be healthy and seeing them for just routine, proactive checkups and hearing how amazing they're doing. And that's the same for the members in my program. Like, it's amazing to hear success stories and see the results that we've been getting through using food therapy, fresh food options, adjusting the emotional health, the stress that's in the house, healing those detox pathways and opening them up, and of course, healing gut health and healing that leaky gut. So I hope you all found this a little bit helpful. Remember, go back to those principles, those foundations of health. That is key for healing your pets. It's not always just about what supplement is next and laying those on. We need to make sure the whole foundation is solid, so that way your pets truly heal. I appreciate you for taking time out of this beautiful day to learn a little bit more, empower yourselves. I'm Dr. Katie Woodley, the Natural Pet Doctor, and I will see you all again next Friday for our next Coffee Talk with the Doc. Take care.